Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Happiness. Why do some people who are in the exact same situation and everything looks the same thing seems to have happened to each person, and yet one person seems very unhappy and the other seems content or even happy? How is that possible? I remember when I was in university, two of my friends were in the exact same class. And at the end of the semester, they each got a B. Well, one of my friends was so happy that she got a B, and the other was pretty mortified that she got a B. How is that possible? If we've lived long enough, we see this often. A friend of ours may get divorced, and they're mortified, and perhaps for years and years they struggle with being a divorcee. And yet someone else gets divorced, and within months, even weeks, they seem okay, and they're doing well and enjoying the change of their life. Or haven't we known people that have lost their job? And again, it is so challenging for them. They may take weeks, months, sometimes years to come out of their depression from losing their jobs. And yet others are excited for the new adventure ahead of them and look at it so differently. Or this is one perhaps we see all the time. We're somewhere at a store, at a restaurant, and for whatever reason, there's a holdup, there's a wait, and some people during this time can get so upset, so angry, and others just wait. They may strike up a conversation with the person beside them. They may get on their phone and catch up on some needed task. We may even wonder about this in ourselves. Haven't we all had experiences where we call customer service and we're put on hold, perhaps for a half an hour or even an hour, and just when the phone picks up and we're going to get our customer service help, they disconnect us and we have to do it all over again. And perhaps when this happens, we always get really mad, but it may happen once in a while where we're not mad. We just say, well, here we go again, that's customer service, and then we go forward. What is the difference? Why one time can we be so angry about something and others so calm and peaceful? What's going on here? After all, wouldn't it be great if we didn't get upset all the time or so frequently when life doesn't go the way we want it to? We know it's possible because we can look around and sometimes in the exact same situation we're in, someone else is fine or not even upset. They may even be happy. Or we may be in the exact same situation in the past and been fine, or reflecting on it later say, why did I get so upset? And even at the time, if it feels like it's a big deal, I still would love to learn how to be calm and not let it ruin my day or my life. I'm sure we've all heard of the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare. There's a paragraph that really touches on the cause of us getting upset and thus potentially staying calm. William Shakespeare writes, "Why then, 'tis none to you, for there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. To me it is a prison. Well, then it isn't one to you, since nothing is really good or bad in itself. It's all what the person thinks about it." What Shakespeare is saying here is that our thoughts, the way we evaluate what's happening, is the cause of our suffering, of our upsetness, or of our lack of upsetness. Going back to my earlier example, my two friends in college, the one who was so mortified when she got a B in her test had expected to get an A. She wanted to get an A because she wanted to go to graduate school and become a psychologist, and she knew that she had to get good grades in order to get into graduate school. So when she got a B, she was so upset because she thought her life was ruined. Or at least that's a story at the time when she saw that B that she was creating in her head. My other friend didn't feel that pressure. For her, getting C's was good enough because she just wanted to graduate and go to work. And when she got a B, she was really happy because she was just hoping for a C. But the B was even better than a C, so she felt fine about it and didn't feel any pressure to do better than that. This may be hard to hear, but the situation in and of itself is not upsetting. It's our thoughts about the situation that cause us to get upset. I've been working with people for decades that are facing death. They have a diagnosis that probably will lead to their death. Whether young, old, or middle-aged, we can approach our death in very different ways. For some, many, it is very upsetting, and it really takes away from them living well because they see it as so unfair or just not right, or it wasn't supposed to happen to them. And yet others, a few others, see it, think about it differently, and they're okay with their death at whatever age they are, even young people. It's our thoughts or the way we look at death that causes us to see it with tranquility or with upsetness. And when we realize that that is in every situation the case, we begin to say, okay, I can gain control over my upsetness by realizing and really understanding that my upsetness right now has very little or nothing to do with the situation in and of itself. It's about the thoughts I'm sharing in my head that are causing me to be upset. This is the deep insight that William Shakespeare shared hundreds of years ago. Again, he said, "For there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so." Now, I do understand that a lot of people may get upset over an example you may be thinking of, and that is true. But as long as there's one or two people that aren't, and it's not that they're just suppressing their feelings or denying what's happening, they truly are okay, then that means that's a possibility. So let's talk about now, how do we implement how to not get upset on a very practical level? Well, the first thing we have to realize is that when we're upset, we have to ask ourselves, okay, I know I feel justified in being upset right now, but what am I thinking that is causing me to be upset? Because we are thinking something that is causing us to be upset. The situation in and of itself isn't necessarily upsetting. I know this may seem crazy at the time, but if we discover and really begin to explore that our thoughts affect our upsetness, then we can say, okay, what am I thinking that is causing me to be upset? That's where we start. That's where our energy goes at first. When we are upset, we just really explore, what am I thinking that is causing me to be upset? Again, the mind's going to say, well, of course I'm upset. Anyone would be upset in this situation. Well, that is not true. We are upset because of something that is happening to us. What is the thoughts that we're having? Let's start with that and really look, what am I thinking? For example, let's say we go to work today, and when we get there, our manager calls us into the office, and they say for various reasons they're going to have to let us go. And they're giving us a 2-week notice with severance pay, but this is our last day at work. So after we pack up our things and leave the office, all the way home, and when we get home, we may be thinking really dark, negative thoughts like, what am I going to do? Am I going to lose my home? How will I support and help my family? I mean, the stories can be endless. But really what happened was we just lost our job. So let's start with that. We focus on, okay, I'm upset not because I lost my job. I'm upset because of the stories I'm creating about what might happen because I lost my job. I mean, they told me I had 2 weeks pay, so I have the next 2 weeks that I'm going to get paid, and I don't have to work. That's the reality. It's our thoughts that cause us to be upset. Or another thought may be, but it's just unfair. I was a hard worker. Why did they let me go? Other people don't lose their job. I lost my job. Life is just unfair. Really? Other people don't lose their job ever? I wasn't aware of that. But that's the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts cause us to be upset. And when we get that, we deeply get that, then when we're upset, we can do this first step, which is to examine, which is to explore, what are the thoughts that I'm thinking that are causing me to be upset? Not what is upsetting about this situation, because that's irrelevant. What is relevant is, What are the thoughts that I'm thinking that are causing me to be upset? The situation really in and of itself isn't causing us to be upset. It's our thoughts that are causing us to be upset. Now, mind you, I don't want to downplay that certain situations can be painful, physically painful, but it's our thoughts saying this isn't fair, this isn't right, or whatever thoughts we have, good ones, like, oh, this is okay. It's our thoughts that add to or make the situation either upsetting or not upsetting. Now, before you get too upset at me, I will acknowledge that certain things happen to us are very upsetting. And the thoughts that we may be having about these events can be very justified and true. It's just we have to acknowledge that our feelings are preceded by our thoughts. And when we get that, we can say, okay, well, let's start with what are my thoughts? That's where we want to start. That's the first part of getting control, or at least understanding our upsetness. What am I thinking that's making me upset right now? Then we go to the second part. The second part is, okay, do I need to continue in these thoughts? Are they helpful? They may be. They may help me heal from what just happened. Are they useful? They may be. They may protect me from it happening again. But are they also causing me suffering? Perhaps unnecessary suffering. So once we know what the thoughts are, then we begin to examine them. We say, is this true? I mean, right now, if I lost my job, I have no idea what's going to happen in a month from now. Or if I'm diagnosed with cancer, or if I'm going through a divorce, or if I failed at an exam, or if I miss my flight. I don't know what's going to happen in the near future, or especially the far future. So am I thinking about things that are causing me distress that I don't need to be? A lot of life works well when we focus on the here and now and not project into the future. There are just too many factors that can affect the future. So when we're upset, we ask ourselves, is there something that I have a right to be upset about right now? And if yes, then we can say, okay. Then the next thing is, do I want to be? Or is it better for me to say, maybe it's time to let this go because I'd rather be happy than be upset? I mean, for example, a simple one would be like we get to a place and there's a very long line. Now we may say, I need to stay here because what I need to get, I can't leave. I can use this time to be very upset while I'm in the line. Or I can say, this is just what is. Sometimes there are long lines. Sometimes there are waits. Can I use this time well? Can I call a friend? Can I strike up a conversation? Can I listen to a podcast? Can I watch a show on my phone? There are so many different options that we have instead of being upset. It may not seem right. We may be frustrated and say, why does this have to happen? But if we really want to stop being upset as often, or at least less often than we are, then we have to ask ourselves, okay, I realize that my thoughts are causing me to be upset. Can I redirect my thoughts somewhere else? Can I focus on something else? Those are the examples that I'm giving us. We create our upsetness when we focus on something else, when we redirect our thoughts, when we interpret things in different ways. Then all of a sudden, life isn't so upsetting all the time. We gain control over our upsetness because we realize we have a lot of control over our upsetness. We may not have much control over the external world, but we have a lot of control over our internal world. And that's what we focus on. We focus on, if I want to have a good life, then being upset all the time is not a good life. And if I don't want to be upset all the time, I need to stop expecting things to go a certain way, wanting things to go a certain way, and begin to just flow with life. Of course, I can have goals. I can have preferences, preferring things to go this way instead of that. But when life says, no, it's going this way, then I have to ask myself a very important question. Would I rather be happy or would I rather be upset? Because it is a choice. It's a choice based on this one very important insight that the great bard William Shakespeare shared with us many years ago. For there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. When we deeply realize that at the core of our being, we begin to gain control of our lives, not externally as much, but far more internally. So when things go a certain way, we realize that that way is up to me to decide whether it will be good or bad. It doesn't have to be either, but it will be me who decides which it is. And because we want to have beautiful lives, when we do find that we get upset, we'll do two things. The first thing is we'll ask ourselves, what am I thinking that is causing me to be upset? And secondly, will I work towards finding peace and happiness in my life? Or will I stay upset? Because I realize now, it is up to me which journey of life I choose to be on. And may everyone listening to this talk choose the path of peace and happiness. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you are finding these episodes helpful, I would love for you to share your experience with others. The easiest way for new people to listen to this podcast is just refer them to www.happinesspodcast.org. That's happinesspodcast.org. Or if you want to do more and leave a review, on that site you'll find a Yelp link, a Google Plus link, a testimonial link, or perhaps even the site you're listening to this podcast on. Often you can leave reviews there too. The reviews are an awesome way to encourage people to start listening to the Happiness Podcast. And until next time, accept what is, love what is. Do you ever wonder why some companies do so well, grow, and just seem to keep coming up with great ideas and keep expanding, while other companies are permeated with negativity, lawsuits, employee turnover, and just overall unhappiness in the workplace? Whichever corporate camp you find yourself in, or somewhere in between, the key to any company's ongoing success is to invest in and help their employees perform at their peak performance. There are very clear and specific things that people can do to perform well at work and in life in general. This is the focus of my podcast, and it's also the focus of my work. Being at the cutting edge of any market is sustained through investment in training employees how to perform well. But sustained growth and productivity requires specific psychological tools in order to continue to perform at peak levels. This is where I can help. I've been studying peak performance for over 30 years now, helping people all over the world. And there are very specific things that have to be maintained in order to sustain this level of performance. When companies invest in their employees are invested in them. Unfortunately, it's quite common for companies to be doing exceptionally well in the marketplace, but for unknown reasons, key employees make poor choices, leave the company, or start struggling and coping with stress-related illnesses. Companies that do well know their business really well, but human behavior works in mysterious ways unless you've been trained to understand the causes and cures of underperformance. If you're a forward-thinking company, perhaps it's time to think about giving your employees skills that may really help them perform well at work and throughout their lives. If you work for or manage a company, and you're ready to learn the skills in order to survive and thrive in any market, in any conditions, or in life in general, I'd love to help. These are the skills I've learned. These are the ones I'd love to bring to your company. True lasting success has to be seen from a broader perspective, not just monetary. And if you're ready to bring about these changes, that's where I can help. To learn more, go to www.successbeyondyourimagination.com. That's successbeyondyourimagination.com. And whether we're at the doorstep of retirement or have many years to go, may we always be growing and be developing our skills not only as successful employees, but as successful human beings.